Hey YouTube, this is Bill. Today I'm going to change it up and get away from reviewing portable PA speakers, and I'm going to introduce to you my desktop computer system. This system was created a number of years ago. I wouldn't necessarily buy the same pieces today. It's an interesting system though, so let's go over it. So the main speakers, left and right, are Focal Alpha 80s. And they are very powerful speakers. 8-inch woofers, large amps, studio monitors. And if you notice how close they are to for a computer setup, they're huge. So there's a couple of reasons I bought these speakers. And again, I wouldn't necessarily buy the same speakers today. When I purchased them, I listened in a guitar center, and this was before the downsizing of stores, where they had a sound room. They just had, I don't know, 30 or 20 speakers, all studio monitors, and it was set up where you were able to A/B them instantaneously with a switch box. And I listened to every speaker, including more expensive speakers, Genelecs, and these were just night and day from basically everything I heard. They were just so hi-fi sounding. As soon as I A/B them to something else, a regular studio monitor, it just sounded very, very lean compared to these. And the bass on these are incredible. The mids are incredible. The high end is okay, but that's not the strength. The strength of these speakers are the hi-fi sound of the mids, very smooth sounding. And then on the other side of the coin, the incredible bass from that 8-inch speaker. People right off the bat are going to say, whoa, why is everything so close together? Well, if you look at my situation, I have a wall to the left, windows behind me, windows to the right. I just don't have any room to separate the left and right speakers. So this is not the way to set up a system if you have room. But this is my situation. This is where I want to set up my computer. It's in the kitchen. So I just don't have any other choice. That's it. So I run this system from a mixer, and it's a great mixer. It's called the Z10FX from Allen and Heath. I've had this for a number of years. It's built like a tank, and it's highly recommended. They've never changed the model. It's so successful. It's been out for who knows how many years. It's really a very popular mixer for live sound, but I'm not using it for live sound. I'm using it for this computer desk setup. On the bottom here, I have a 12-inch, 500-watt subwoofer, and it's by Elemental Designs. It's a company that unfortunately has gone out of business. So you got to be careful about internet buying, because no matter how great it is or the warranty they give you, if the company goes out of business, there goes your warranty. It's back to zero. But luckily, on my case, I've had this speaker for many, many years, and it's still going strong. But if you want to buy something comparable, a 12-inch subwoofer, 500 watts, I would recommend SVS. The SB Pro 2000 will be a comparable subwoofer. Okay, but again, if I had to make this system again for a desktop set situation, you really don't need a 12-inch, 500 watts subwoofer. I would get something smaller, maybe the SVS SB 1000, which is 300 watts, 12-inch. Just this system is kind of overkill. But like I said, it's in a kitchen, and the kitchen it's a very open floor plan. It opens up into the den. So this system can fill the whole, basically the whole bottom floor of my home if I wanted to. These speakers are very loud. The alpha focals can go up to 106 dB, and that is as loud. Actually, it's louder than my small Bose S1 Pros, which is our PA speakers. But these speakers are, like I said, very, very smooth, hi-fi studio monitors. Okay, let's move on. And the last component of the system I bought at a different time, and that's right here in the middle. It's called the Adam A7X. It's an expensive speaker. It is a very famous studio monitor that's been out for many, many years. Again, it's so good, they've never changed it. Who knows how many years it's been out, but it's very, very highly rated in the studio world. And I'm not doing that. I'm not using these to record. I'm not mixing. So people are going to say, why do you buy a speaker like that for a desktop computer setup? And again, I'm gonna admit that this setup is not traditional. It's kind of, I call it my Frankenstein setup, just putting pieces together. But I'm doing it I added that one speaker for a reason. And again, it's not really a center channel. It's not like a home theater setup. The reason I added the Adam was because the focals are so smooth and such great low end. The top end is like I said, it's average, it's good, it's clean, but it doesn't stand out. Where the Adams, if you notice, it has the ribbon tweeter. They're famous for that ribbon tweeter. It's super, super clean. And when I combine the two, it's just, like I said, it's adds the system. It completes the system. It's very unique, and I'm sure nobody else on the web has ever done anything quite like this for a computer setup. This is probably the most powerful desktop system you're going to see. This, like I said again, it can fill a large downstairs from the kitchen, open floor plan into the family room. Adam also is 106 dB, very, very loud speaker. And again, I'm not particularly, I didn't buy it for that reason to play loud. I just matched up the Adam with the focals and it just works. So again, what I do is I use the mixer. I'm able to bring up the focals first, and then I use the augs out, and I bring up the Adam to blend, and then to top it off, I bring up the subwoofer from another augs out, and that just adds even more bass than the focals can produce. To be honest, the focals are just such an incredible low end. Half the time, I really don't need a subwoofer with these speakers. So that's it. This is a mega computer desktop system. Unfortunately, because of my space constraints, they would sound a lot better if I was able to separate those left and right focals and move them out a bit. But these speakers, again, these are studio monitors, so they sound great even, I'm right next to them. You don't have to play them loud, and it just sounds incredible. I mentioned if I had to buy this system again today from scratch, I probably wouldn't buy this particular system. I think what I would buy is the new KEF wireless speakers, which are much smaller. These Alpha 80s are just huge for a desktop setup. And then their new KEF K62 small subwoofer that fits under a desk. That would be an incredible system. But like I said, the system was put together many years ago. Let me go over what I paid for it. And funny enough, the prices haven't changed. I was very surprised about that. Everything else in the PA world, the prices have jumped like crazy with the situation going on. But for some reason, these speakers are the same price that I paid. So the Alpha 80s were, and they still are, $550 each. So that's $1,100 for the pair. The Adam A7X, famous studio monitor speaker, is $750. The Allen & Heath is also the same price right now as what I paid for many years ago, $400. The Sub isn't available. I mentioned that company is out of business. I paid $500 to get a comparable SVS SB2000 would now be $900. So that's jumped up. If you do want to go with a smaller sub, I would recommend the SVS SB1000 for $600, which is a great desktop computer setup speaker. So altogether with the cables, XLR cables, the system was about pushing $2,900. That is pretty expensive for a desktop setup, I admit. And I'm probably going to get some feedback saying, why are you using studio monitors? You're not recording. Well, it sounds wonderful. And again, people will say, why'd you go with the Adam? That's strictly a recording speaker. Well, my comeback is it just sounds wonderful when you pair it up with the vocals. So as a system, it all gels perfectly together, and I can play this as loud as any small PA system, surprisingly enough. Okay, let's talk some specs. So the Focal Alpha 80s, they go down to 38 hertz and they go up to 22 hertz. And that 22 figure that's where a studio monitor is different than a PA speaker. PA speakers just usually rolled off on the top end, or these stay perfectly clean. I mentioned they go up to 160 dB, which is very, very loud for a studio monitor, but these aren't your normal studio monitors. There's an 8-inch woofer there, and look at the side. They're huge. They're really big, and they kind of look ungainly for this kind of setup. But I didn't buy for looks, I bought for sound. And as I'll say it again, I A/B them against a room full of speakers, and every one of them, when I switched on the Focal, they all sounded second place. These just sound so hi-fi. But again, these probably are not the most popular speakers for studios because they sound too hi-fi. That's where the A7X comes in, the famous A7X 7-inch woofer, which is also fairly large for a studio monitor. They go down to 40 too. Again, nowhere near the base of the A7, the Focals. But they go up, this is an interesting statistic, they go up to 50 Hz on the top end. And again, it's that unique ribbon tweeter that is super clean, crystal clear, and that's what makes these speakers very unique. Again, 160 dB on the high end. I want to read to you a couple of the comments I've read about the A7X. And again, this was just on one website. I mean, there's hundreds of reviews out there because they've been out for so long. So again, this is mainly about that ribbon tweeter. So these are some of the descriptions, the adjectives they use. Pristine, accurate, crystal clear, clarity, excellent imaging, depth, detailed, separation, best on the market within $1,000. And I couldn't agree more. These are just incredible speakers, but they're a tool that I'm going to stress again. These are studio speakers that professional mixers use. So this is very unusual that anybody, maybe I'm the only one, who is using this in a computer desktop setup. But when you match them up with the Focal Alpha 80s, makes quite a pair if you're able to adjust the sounds, the gain with a mixer. Okay, we're going to do a quick sound demo. I want to explain to you how I'm going to do this. So right here, the main mix, that is the Focal 80s. I'm going to start with that, bring it up. Then to add the high-end clarity that I'm looking for, that the Focals are slightly missing, in green here from an AUX out, I'm going to bring in the Adams. I usually bring it up to about 9 o'clock. That's all I need. And that's going to add quite a bit of clarity on the top end. And then to top it off, from my monitor out, I'm going to bring up the subwoofer. And again, I have it set that when I get to about 9 o'clock, it's really pounding. So that's it. It's easy to do. And again, I mentioned this in my past videos. I'm using the second speaker and the subwoofer out kind of like an EQ. People might say, well, why don't you just use EQ? Well, because number one, this is so much faster to use another speaker, and it's much more dramatic, and it's just easier when you're listening to recorded music. And that's what I'm doing with this particular system. And again, this is very untraditional. Most people would not use a second or a third speaker to do EQing. But for my purposes, the way I enjoy music, this is the way I like to do it. Bring up some highs as much as the first main speakers are lacking. Bring up the lows. Some songs I really want to crank it up because I'm playing some low synthesizer music, or maybe if I'm listening to jazz, I want to turn it down from the previous track. That's what you cannot do with just setting speakers and leaving it. That's just the way I enjoy listening to music. Let's demonstrate just the bass. Not bad, almost 98 dBs. I think the refrigerator was shaking a little bit. Okay, I'm ready for the sound demo. Keep your eye on the dB meter. For my followers who've seen some of my previous videos, I'm going to be using a track that I created through GarageBand. You've probably heard it a number of times, but because of copyright situations, I can't use some of my favorite test tracks. But this track, actually, it's pretty good. It has some great low end, and then toward the end, it has some very sharp, clean high end, so you can hear the different frequency spectrum. Oh, there we go. 105.4 dB. Pretty powerful. Again, I don't usually listen to anything like that. Volumes, normally, I kind of stick around 85 dB max. It's not good for the hearing, but just for the test, these speakers, and they weren't even maxed out. These things the system could have gone a couple of notches higher. Pretty impressive. So that's it. Summing up, this is my desktop computer setup. I'll call it my Frankenstein system, putting pieces together, but the end product is something that to me is very impressive for a computer desktop system. Is it the most powerful computer desktop system out there? I don't know. Maybe someone in the comments could tell me their own system that they use. Again, I don't normally need something to fill the hole downstairs. I don't usually play like that for the purposes. But this system is incredible. Another thing I forgot to mention is if you're a keyboard player, many keyboard players who play in the home use studio monitors instead of PA speakers because they're so crystal clear and they cover all the frequencies that a keyboard needs. So the Focal Alpha 80s would make a great pair for that purpose. I've never tried the Adam, but again, it doesn't have the low end that the Alphas have without needing a subwoofer. Okay, that's a wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comments on your own system for a desktop. I would like to hear some other comparisons. Hope you enjoyed. This is Bill.